So nearly a year after I reviewed the original Metroid Prime for the GameCube, I think it's finally time to get into the next entry of the series. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, there's a reason why this review took as long as it did. It took a lot out of me to review this game. Core footage of it, all that whatnot. If I'm ever going to pick up Metroid Prime 2 again anytime soon, it'll probably be for a commentary on Brain Scratch or for an LP on my Let's Play channel. But you guys waited long enough, so without further ado, here's my review of Metroid Prime 2, Echoes for the GameCube. As you guys know, I love Metroid Prime. The gameplay, the atmosphere, just about everything I loved about a Metroid game was fleshed out perfectly in the third dimension with this title. I never get sick of playing it, and I certainly can't say that for all the games I own. With that said, I was stoked when the sequel was announced and even more excited when it was released back in November of 2004. God, has it been nearly 7 years already? Anyway, let's get started. So here we are at the opening cutscene. Metroid Prime 2 takes place sometime after the events of the first Prime game, though exactly how long ago is something I'm not sure of. Samus is hired by the Galactic Federation to locate some missing GF troops that went missing near the planet Aether, or however you pronounce it. While Samus is entering the atmosphere of the planet, an electrical storm damages her ship, forcing her to make a crash landing, though only the rear of the ship appears to have taken any damage, so I'm guessing the ship is made of Nintendium. It doesn't take long for Samus to see that something's gone horribly wrong on this planet. The once dead GF troopers suddenly start coming back to life and begin to attack Samus, probably the closest we'll ever get to a zombie apocalypse in a Metroid game. Upon further investigation, Samus comes across a dark doppelganger of herself, who's seen escaping into this dark portal of some sort. Samus starts to give chase and winds up in a dark, desolate area where these demonic-looking creatures await. There we see Dark Samus absorbing Phazon, the source of our problems in the first Prime game.
So I missed!
Before Samus can do anything, she finds herself taking damage and soon becomes surrounded by the dark creatures, who proceed to dogpile her with Samus only barely escaping. Samus manages to survive, but upon regaining her composure, she finds out that those creatures hijacked all of her shit. Just how the hell could they do whatever. Samus presses on and eventually comes across the missing GF ship, where she finds out the GF troopers were also attacked and overwhelmed by these dark creatures Samus encountered earlier. Turns out the planet's strange electrical interference that damaged Samus' ship also prevented the GF ship from contacting HQ for backup, though one wonders why the Galactic Federation immediately turned to Samus for help when I'm sure they're more than capable to look for missing personnel. Anyway, Samus continues her investigation, soon reaching the center of the temple grounds, where she encounters another creature that soon becomes possessed like the dead soldiers. Upon killing it, Samus absorbs this spirit bomb that seemingly does nothing to her. As soon as Samus reaches the top of the temple grounds, she encounters this creature who explains to Samus that he's Umos, a being who belongs to a highly advanced race called the Luminoth, the inhabitants of this planet. Umos explains to Samus that planet Aether was once a peaceful place until one day a giant meteor crash landed that caused the planet to split into two forms, a light version and a dark version. I won't even begin to think how that would work, but anyway, the dark half and their inhabitants, known as the Ing, are slowly but surely taking over the light half, and soon planet Aether will be nothing but a dark wasteland filled to the brim with these creatures. By the way, I love how Samus constantly has her gun pointed at Umos during his exposition speech. Always the careful one she is. To fix this problem, Umos entrusts Samus with the task of returning Aether's light energy back to their respective temples. To do this, Samus needs to travel into the dark half of Aether by using these dimensional rifts and locate 3 keys for each temple. Then, by defeating the temple's boss, you can restore that temple's energy back to normal. It's probably the closest we'll ever get to a Zelda-styled Metroid game. In fact, the whole setup of this game reminds me a lot of A Link to the Past. The whole dark world thing, switching between the two to progress through your adventure, it's all very similar. Like Metroid Prime, once you're given your task, the story takes a backseat and continues on through many data logs, lores, and research data that Samus can use your scan visor to read. Throughout your journey, you'll come across the returning space pirates, Metroids from Talon 4, and encounter Dark Samus in different areas of the game, getting more difficult with each fight. Thankfully, the scan visor received quite a decent upgrade from the last game. Instead of looking for orange or red squares, objects that can be scanned are not completely enveloped in a particular color, with red objects being important for progression. It's a very nice change, and I'm glad it was implemented. In terms of control, Samus and her heads-up display behave exactly how they did in the first Prime game, so you don't have to worry about getting used to anything new control-related. If you find yourself getting lost, your visor will eventually tell you the general direction you should be headed, so you shouldn't find yourself lost for too long. The main gimmick of Metroid Prime 2 is traveling through both the light half of Aether and the dark half. Solving puzzles not only require you to use Samus' abilities to your advantage, but now you have to take into account solving puzzles in one dimension to affect another. For instance, there's a section in Torvus Bog that requires you to manipulate this bridge to advance to the next area. but because the bridge itself is in a dimensional flux, you need to travel to the dark version of the area and turn the bridge there, allowing you to use it in the light half. Dark Aether is just like Light Aether, only, well, darker. The environments are bleak, the atmosphere is poisonous, and the enemies are much more dangerous. Because of its poisonous atmosphere, Samus needs to stay alive by standing in these light shields. Not only do they protect her from the atmosphere, but it also slowly recovers her health. Thankfully, for the most part, light shields are pretty abundant, but then there's times where they can be pretty damn scarce, and when you first begin your journey through Dark Aether, you're gonna notice Samus' health drop like a fucking rock. Because of that, there might be times where you'll find yourself forced to stand still inside a shield and wait until you're fully recovered, which can get boring. Really boring. As you should be used to at this point, Samus will need to recover her power-ups if she wants to complete her adventure. Though the Ing stole most of Samus' equipment, she still has her Charge Shot, Morph Ball, and Various Suit to start you off. Although the Various Suit is purely cosmetic in this game, as you won't be running into any heat-based areas throughout your journey. Getting power-ups back usually involve beating the shit out of a Dark Aether creature that's using the power-up to its advantage. Sort of like how most bosses in Metroid Fusion use Samus' abilities before she can get them back. Throughout your adventure, you'll recover missiles, the space jump, morph ball bombs, the grapple beam, the boost and spider ball abilities, power bombs, and very late in the game, the screw attack.
Shut your face!
Actually, for its 3D debut, the screw attack kinda sucks in this game. Its only real purpose is to get you across large chasms and perform wall jumps on specific type of walls. Trying to hit anything with it is damn near impossible because you really can't steer Samus left or right with it, and even then, the enemy is probably moving too fast to aim properly at. Poor screw attack, the 3D world is just not like you at all. Well, at least until Other M. In terms of the suits you can collect, this game decides to take a different route this time. New to the series is the Dark Suit, which provides Samus better protection from not only damage, but from Dark Aether's poisonous atmosphere as well. It also replaces Samus' shoulders with giant yo-yos. Instead of getting a gravity suit, you'll instead get the gravity booster, which not only helps you move normally underwater, but it also allows you to momentarily hover while traveling in water, acting pretty much as a third jump. It's pretty fun to use, but water areas are pretty limited in this game to begin with, so you won't be using it very often. Later on, you'll also get the light suit, which... wow, are the 4 searchlights in the chest really necessary? Jesus, you can poke an eye out with those kneecaps! Well, with the light suit, you're completely invulnerable to the effects of Dark Aether, so while the suit looks goofy, it does its job well. Seriously, those kneecaps! New to the series is the Seeker Missile, allowing you to target multiple objects at once with missiles. I barely use this upgrade unless it's required, and frankly, I just stick with regular missiles, or super missiles, which also make a return. Instead of a thermal visor and an X-ray visor, Samus can get the Dark Visor, which allows her to see invisible objects, and the Echo Visor, which allows Samus to pull a Daredevil and see sound waves, allowing her to solve specific puzzles and open certain doors. Finally, your arsenal of beams are also quite different this time around. Well, first off, the Wave Beam, the Ice Beam, and the Plasma Beam are nowhere to be seen. Instead, we get some beam weapons exclusive to this game. First, we have the Dark Beam, which when charged up sort of acts like an ice beam of some sort and allows Samus to shatter things easily with a missile. Then there's the Light Beam, which... well, what am I firing here? Concentrated light? Well, whatever it is, dark enemies certainly don't like it, especially when it's charged up. Frankly, I don't really like this whole dark and light weapon concept. I mean, yeah, it is somewhat satisfying to completely incinerate a dark enemy with a light beam, but the lack of variety is what bugs me the most. That and the fact that both weapons have limited ammo. Yes, beam weapons with an ammo count. What the hell? Killing enemies with one weapon will get you ammo for the opposite weapon, and you can also find ammo expansions to give you more to shoot, which is okay, I guess, but honestly, why even bother with limited ammo to begin with? To me, in a Metroid game, unless it's missiles, I don't want to have to worry about running out of ammo of an energy weapon. I'd rather just have unlimited ammo and worry more about what weapon is best to use in a given situation. Later, you'll also get the Annihilator Beam, which is both light and dark and has homing properties, but it uses both light and dark ammo, which makes it a bit unruly to use. And by the time you get the weapon, you're pretty much almost done the game anyway. You can also obtain weapon expansions to your beam weapons, like the Dark Burst for the Dark Beam and the Sun Burst for the Light Beam, with the Annihilator Beam getting the Sonic Boom. But honestly, besides the Super Missile, I rarely use these power-ups unless I'm feeling particularly gun-happy in a room I just want to get through. I mean, not only does something like the Dark Burst cost a lot of dark ammo, but it also uses missiles as well. It's impractical to me. Overall, I find the new beam weapons in general pretty damn dull. Personally, I'll take the Ice, Wave, and Plasma Beam any day over these weapons. Unfortunately, the problems don't end with the beam weapons. Metroid Prime 2 in itself just feels dull and drawn out. Throughout Samus' adventure, you'll explore the temple grounds, the gritty lands of the Aegon Wastes, the swamp that is the Torvus Bog, and the technologically advanced Sanctuary Fortress. But honestly, besides maybe a few areas in the Sanctuary Fortress, all of these areas just seem to blend in with one another. No particular area seems to stand out among the others. Because of this, I can't help but feel that Metroid Prime 2 is graphically inferior to its predecessor. Yeah, I certainly like how Samus looks here more than I did in the first game, but everything else just seems lackluster in comparison. It's even worse in Dark Aether, which thanks to its grim and dark atmosphere causes every area to look almost exactly the same. I mean, I know Dark Aether is supposed to represent an apocalyptic setting that's supposed to invoke fear and paranoia, but to me it's just a pain in the ass to travel through, and thanks to its dull look, it's completely forgettable. I've played this game from beginning to end quite a number of times for various reasons, but each and every single time I play, I never remember where to go next, since nothing in this game is as memorable as the first Prime game. I always find myself waiting for the hint system to kick in and remind me where to go next. Some of the enemies can also be a real pain to deal with. You see, a majority of the enemies in this game are simply dark copies of enemies you fight in the light half of Aether. Remember the Chozo Ghosts from the first Prime game? Apparently the producers didn't think they were annoying enough and decided to give us Dark Commandos. My god, the Dark Commandos. It's bad enough they appear in almost every other room in later sections of the game, but because they can travel between dimensions, they can take forever to kill. Until you get the Dark Visor, you'll spend most of your time shooting at absolutely nothing until you either get lucky or wait until they disappear. And no, you can't bypass them either because the damn doors lock up, so if you don't feel like wasting ammo, you're going to be waiting for a while. God, this is dull. If you're thinking Metroids themselves are a pain, well, no. The Dark Beam makes short work of them, and even though you run into dark versions later on, they're still pretty easy to beat. Remember when these guys were the demonic spiders of the Metroid series? Yeah, it's a bit of TV tropes lingo there, but goddammit, that sight is awesome. Oh, well, hi there, buddy. What exactly am I looking at? Wait, why can't I lock on it?
My god, it can attack the fourth wall!
The overall structure of the game is another thing that positively irks the shit out of me. Now, every Metroid game had its share of backtracking, some worse than others, but this game is backtracking incarnate. This is how it usually goes. You enter a new area, get an upgrade, backtrack to the temple grounds to use that upgrade to get another upgrade, and use that upgrade to fully explore the dark area of the new area you couldn't explore before. The constant back and forth structure wears thin incredibly fast and draws the game out to an almost ridiculous degree. After a while, I just want the game to end. The boss fights are definitely a little more interesting, and hell, they're certainly a lot more than they were in the first Prime game, but god damn it, even these fights can feel drawn out and frustrating. I swear it takes fucking forever to kill Chaika, and don't get me started on the Boost Guardian. I lost so many times to this asshole during my first playthrough, it was almost a damn deal breaker to me. The fight with the Alpha Block can also be a severe pain in the ass because for some reason my sidestep dash randomly decides to stop working properly during this fight. Why? What the hell is causing it? Is it a bug? Is my controller wearing out? Well, after 8 years I wouldn't be surprised, but still, what the hell? The encounters with Dark Samus are pretty entertaining, but after a while my thumb begins to hurt after mashing the shoot button so many times, because as far as I'm aware the power beam is the best thing to use to take her energy down. Then there's the Spider Guardian, the biggest asshole on this godforsaken planet. If it isn't the damage you take from his protective shield, it's the fucking process of getting up to the bomb slots to alter his directional behavior, causing him to run into these bug zappers that damage him. Come on. Come on. One more. God! What the hell? Get up there! Oh, for the love of God! And God help you if you lose to him. You see, before this particular boss fight, you already have done an hour's worth of exploration in the Sanctuary Fortress, with no save room in sight. Losing to this asshole will not only net you a game over, but you have to do all of that exploration all over again. In fact, there's a lot of times where the game decides to get stingy on save points. Like the process of getting the gravity booster and fighting the Alpha Block all in one go. Game design like this just adds to the list of frustrations I already have with this game. And to top it all off, we have the hunt for the Sky Temple keys. Yeah, remember when we had to look for the Chozo artifacts in order to access the impact crater in the last game? Well, the developers must have thought that was the best part of the game and decided to bring that concept back. Only this time, instead of finding artifacts located in hidden sections of the world, you have to travel to different areas of the Dark World and use your Dark Visor to locate these invisible enemies. Then, by shooting it, you can collect the Sky Temple key within. Like the first game, you can collect hints to help you find their whereabouts, but the bottom line here is that because of the sheer amount of backtracking in areas I wasn't particularly fond of to begin with, it's just tiring. It's tiring, and it takes everything in me not to turn the game off and play something else. But anyway, after collecting all the Sky Temple keys, we can finally access the Sky Temple itself, which only contains a boss fight with the source of the Ing itself, the Emperor Ing. Which actually isn't a very hard fight at all, and one of the only times I find the Annihilator being useful. After defeating it, the self-destruct sequence, how I missed you so. You're being overly generous today, aren't you? Actually, it turns out there's a reason for that. Before you can escape the exploding Dark Aether, Dark Samus challenges you one last time, now looking somewhat of a fusion of Samus and the core essence of Metroid Prime. The fight itself isn't so much of a pain, but the fastest way to kill her requires you to collect phazon shrapnel that Dark Samus expels after attacking you. But collecting the damn stuff requires you to stand in harm's way and collect the stuff with your charge shot, which I swear is wonky collision detection. With one final blast, Dark Samus dissipates into many sparkles, allowing Samus to escape Dark Aether right before it implodes. With Aether finally restored, Samus bids Luminoth farewell and blasts off to space once again. But not before removing her suit if you manage to scan enough objects throughout your adventure. Wow, Samus sure packed on a few pounds in her face since, well, the last game. I would show you what happens when you manage to collect all the items in the game, but I've never done it and I probably never will. I just can't be bothered enough to do it. So in case you couldn't tell by now, I'm not really a big fan of this game. The environments are bleak, the weapons leave a lot to be desired, and for a sequel to one of my favorite Metroid games of all time, it's pretty damn disappointing. Samus' journey throughout Planet Aether is nowhere near as exciting as her adventure in Talon 4, and certainly nowhere near as memorable. The whole structure of the game is incredibly repetitive and lacks the appeal and charm that made the first Prime game so great. The story elements are okay, and the research data is a great read, but it isn't enough to make me want to replay the game again. And graphically speaking, it's good for GameCube standards, but like I said before, I think Prime 1 did a better job. The same goes for the music. While there are a few tracks I like in this game, it's not as memorable as other Metroid soundtracks, and especially not as memorable as its predecessor. I know I might be angering some of you guys by constantly comparing this game to the original Metroid Prime, but that game was so much fun to me and did so many things right. Because this is a sequel to said game, I can't express enough how disappointed I am with it. I don't exactly know how to segue into this, but I'd also like to mention that Metroid Prime 2 also has some multiplayer elements, but I'll tell you right now, you are not missing a goddamn thing. It's incredibly bare bones, and really there are much better multiplayer shooters out there already. Hell, Metroid Prime Hunters is a better option, I hate that game. Oh shit, did I just say that out loud? Yeah, whatever. I'll explain what I mean whenever I get to reviewing this game 3 years from now. Anyway, while Metroid Prime 2 has its upsides, the downsides are just too numerous to ignore. There's fun to be had with this installment, don't get me wrong, but it gets too damn boring too damn quickly for its own good. Although the game as a whole is certainly playable, it doesn't hold my interest as a Metroid fan for very long. I can appreciate the game for trying something different with its dual world premise, enemies, and different power-ups, but I think this is a case of changing too much too fast. With that said, I'll give the game a 6.0 out of 10. You're better off renting this one, guys. Dear God, finally got that review done and over with. And I apologize for all those that really do like Metroid Prime 2, but honestly, that's just the way I really feel about the game. But luckily, I think I'll have an easier time with the next game. So the next time we meet in the Metroid universe, we're going to be looking at Metroid Prime 3 Metroid Prime Trilogy for the Nintendo Wii. I don't know how long it'll take me to get that review done, but if I'm lucky, I'll probably have it done before the apocalypse next year. So until then, I'm Johnny, conquering the digital world one game at a time. Stay safe, and have a good night.